What are you doing, dude?
Winter's coming, man.
Yeah, but it's October. We have like 3 months or so. What is this, some like Game of Thrones shit?
No. You don't understand. This is metabolic winter.
Okay. Is this a good thing? Yo. Welcome back. Thank you for tuning in to another week of How to Health. My name is Kevin. I run liftandbalance.com, where we take aim at all topics health and present it in a somewhat odd and interesting way. Speaking of that, I don't think I need these because the intro is over. And I'm aware that fall just started, but in my book, it's never too early to talk about that magical time of year, winter, at least up until January 1st, and then it becomes kind of a sucky time of year here in the northeastern United States. Hopefully it's a lot nicer in January wherever you are, and if so, please invite me to your home so I can enjoy the weather as well, right? People helping people. Anyway, today we are going to talk about the metabolic winter hypothesis and why it may hold the key into correcting our crash course with 21st century metabolic disease. I'm talking heart disease, diabetes, cancer, and obesity, to name a few. There is no denying that we have entered a pandemic that is propelling an increase in age-related chronic disease. Want to hear a not-so-fun fact? Individuals who are overweight now outnumber those of which who are undernourished. Yet, information around nutrition has never been more available. We have the internet, we have blogs, videos, YouTube. You're looking at me right now talking about it. All free, all open. So what gives? And how is this winter thing gonna do anything about it? First, let's start with a high level of how we got here. Scientific advancements back in the 1840s really marked the beginning of modern nutritional science. This is where food began to become classified based on their macronutrients, their carbohydrates, their proteins, their fats, de-emphasizing the points that real whole food contains a mixture of all three of these. And by the early 1900s, the business of food marketing, based off its composition of macronutrients, took off. High protein, reduced sugar, more fiber. Seem familiar, right? All common things you see on the boxes as you walk the aisles of the grocery store. More on the grocery store up here. Essentially, modern technology has changed our living conditions and our relationship with food from one of survival to one of palatability. And when you incorporate this with advancements in agriculture, food manufacturing, and processing, you can easily see how a world of calorie abundance is much more prevalent than a world of calorie scarcity. And might I add, this is all year round. Gone are the days of food scarcity, especially in those colder months. And it begs the question, is this a bad thing? And the answer is yes and no. I think we'll all agree that it's a good thing that the vast majority of the world is not starving.
Mazel, good things.
But it may not be such a good thing that we've created this environment of ubiquitous, cheap, and tasty calories with a whole societal framework that revolves around eating. I mean, the whole Western world is essentially so obsessed with what macronutrients fit into their keto, their food map, their low glycemic diet, that they forget that the answer could just be sitting there in real whole food, a carrot, an apple. So let's pause right here and let's go over what we've established thus far. Most of us live in a society and probably participate in the act of overnourishment and overeating in this food abundant world.
That's me!
Secondly, there's a good chance that every night we're sleeping with a roof over our head in a temperature controlled room and really face little discomfort from the outside world. Now I want you to keep these two things in mind as we get a little cellular. Let's dive into the microbiology and see what is actually happening when these two things meet at a cellular level. You ready for this? I swear this will all make sense, I think. So at a cellular level, overnourishment has been linked to mitochondrial stress, affecting our cellular health and signaling in a not so good way. For example, overabundance of alcohol, branched-chain amino acids, fructose, trans fats have all shown to impair mitochondrial function as well as increase fat in the liver, which is not a good thing. But when you do the opposite, which is calorie restriction, we see pretty much the opposite happen. Studies have shown that calorie restriction delays the onset of age-related disease and promotes extended lifespan. Now it does this by triggering a network of genes that have evolved to protect an organism in times of food scarcity, aka wintertime. Stick with me, I promise it's going to make sense. This longevity survival network includes things such as IGF-1 signaling, mTOR, AMPK, and the 7 sirtuins, which are a family of cellular defense enzymes. And these sirtuins have shown to be pretty important, in particular SIRT1, which has been shown to activate pathways that are critical mediators of mitochondrial biogenesis, which is possibly responsible for many of the health benefits of diet and exercise. But this pathway has also been shown to be associated with another survival trait, one called non-shivering thermogenesis, which basically heats you up by recruiting additional mitochondria to create energy. And these elaborate pathways bring about the notion that modern humans have evolved to cope with seasonally cool temperature, cold stress, and periodic periods of food scarcity, calorie restriction. Oh yeah, and one more thing before we bring this full circle and connect all the pieces. I want to make sure we don't sleep on sleep. Did you know that the modern Western world is chronically sleep deprived? And too little sleep has been associated with obesity and other chronic metabolic diseases? Well, now you know. As we add in an abundance of artificial light and an over cozy environment, two examples I'm showing right here, we have another case of human intervention and technology possibly biting us in the ass again. When you look back at it, we have evolved to sleep in dark, cool conditions. And that's just about the opposite of what we do today. Couple this with suggestions that our environment, especially the environment that we sleep in, has an impact on our circadian rhythms, which are our sleep-wake cycles. We may have a couple more metabolic factors to consider as we fight this battle of chronic disease. So let's bring this full circle. Finally, the metabolic winter hypothesis is a theory that suggests a relationship between calorie scarcity, mild cold stress, and sleep has a direct impact on the prevalence and abundance of nutritional related diseases. Basically, this hypothesis focuses on nutrition and its seasonal effect on our bodies. The most beneficial being during times where we have to hunker down from a organism and cellular level, activating this longevity network that is associated with eating less, being a little cold, and sleeping more. When you think about it, our 7+ million year evolutionary path has been largely dominated by two seasonal challenges: calorie scarcity and mild cold stress. And it really hasn't been until those last few centimeters on that evolutionary mile that we solved them both. And this hypothesis challenges that these once evolutionary challenges may be keys in the 21st century fight against disease. So what can you do to add some of this once evolutionary stress back into your life? Not so much, you don't want to get too stressed, but just a little bit to possibly get some of the benefits. And we're going to keep it simple. First off, get a little cold. There are a couple different ways you can do it. You can go outside and not throw on bundles of clothes, just be out in the environment in the colder months. You can start taking cold showers. I take a cold shower every single morning. It comes with a lot of different benefits, including strengthening the immune system, increasing blood flow, etc., etc. And lastly, you can cool down your room at night. Humans go to bed faster and have a better quality sleep when they decrease their core body temperature. So that's something, if you keep your room a little cooler, that can help in that aspect. Next, it's okay to be a little hungry every once in a while. As we just went through, there are a lot of benefits to calorie restriction, but that's just not fun. And we talked about that in other videos. I'll link them below. So what can you do to mimic calorie restriction? One way people do this is by incorporating an intermittent fasting or prolonged fasting protocol into their daily, weekly, monthly, yearly schedule. A lot of different ways you can look at it. I've talked a lot about fasting. I'll link all that down in the description below. And lastly, prioritizing your sleep and creating a good sleep hygiene routine. Again, did a whole video on this, link it below, but this involves things such as blocking out artificial light at night, not eating huge meals right before the bed, making sure your room is a little cooler so you can decrease that core body temperature, things like that. Now I want to emphasize the word hypothesis in this whole video. This is a theory, this isn't set in stone. This is just the culmination of some really smart people thinking through this problem from an evolutionary standpoint and associating the science with it. You know, it's interesting. Studies have shown that obesity and chronic disease is most often associated with those who tend to stay warm and overnourished. Could it be that our problem is winter never comes? I better go get a jacket.